Fact of the matter is, the negative team has not attacked the most important thing in today's debate round, which is that of countering Russia. The impact of that is international stability, which outweighs every single argument they presented in their voting issues. We see that their voting issues were talking about the economy being damaged, possibly. He actually started to label it potential chemical industry damage, but he actually had to strike out the potential. And then we saw that they talked about this inherency, and they talked about the solvency. We're going to be looking at these points, but showing you that in the end, because the Russia advantage was not countered, this should be a reason to vote for the affirmative team, because it's going to stabilize the Asia-Pacific region, and international stability is far outweigh any economic damage, even if it could happen. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at their voting issue 1, talking about the chemical industry. They basically said that we have no idea, we have no proof that actually supports our position. I just want to point one thing out, which is that of the numbers. The numbers. Which side actually has the numbers in today's debate round? They say that it might hurt the chemical industry. We say that it's going to lose we're going to gain 244,000 jobs. At the end of the day, you have to pick whichever side you can weigh, and the only numbers you can weigh are ours because we've given you specific numbers. They haven't told you how many jobs are going to be lost, what is actually going to be hurt. My second response is in that response to they talk about Australia. They actually never responded to, or they said that they have the same, that US and Australia kind of have the same kind of economies, the same kind of industries. But they never responded to my partner's point, which talked about Australia's stock crash. We see that because of that, we see that it actually hurt their economy. They're not as good as they used to be. Second off, we see that these are two completely different countries. We saw that our study was very specific to the US. Theirs was actually talking about Australia. The EIA study that they talked about, they said was talking about the US, was not specifically talking about how if LNG is going to be exported, it was still talking about the Australia example. They said we have real empirics, and that was the core of their case, real empirics. The fact of the matter is, those empirics were that to Australia. If you remember back in my cross-sex, I was asking Colin a lot of specific questions about what Australia's prices were. He had no answers. I was asking him what Australia's economy looked like. He said he wasn't aware of the stock market crash. We see that when they actually look at Australia and the US, they're two completely different countries. The second thing to look at is at their inherency point. They basically talked about how our evidence wasn't specific and how nothing's going to stop companies, nothing's stopping companies from exporting currently. My response is, in our 1AC, they never actually responded to my partner's point about in the harm. We talked about the approval purgatory. We read multiple pieces of evidence talking about how we're not allowed to be able to ship, we're not allowed to ship LNG. My partner in his 1AR also brought up another piece of evidence talking about all the different companies that had tried to approve but haven't gotten approval. Only 6 companies have gotten approval, and only one of those was to Japan. Again, we need that competition. We need to allow more companies to be able to work so that the free market can do what it's meant to do. Their last point was that the idea of the solvency. They basically said U.S. companies can't afford to ship it off because and it's kind of linked into their same point about damaging the chemical industry. Again, the prices are 5 times cheaper in the U.S., but Japan can't utilize those prices if only one company is selling it. As I talked about the monopoly point, and I kind of gave that analysis that I never responded to, we talked about if one company has control of an entire industry, they can raise the prices as high as they want to because there's no one to drive the prices down. That's what's happening why there's only one company. Japan isn't buying as much from the US because the prices are the same as in Asia because there's only one company who can raise it just as high. When you have multiple companies, you can get the prices to start lowering because the companies are competing to get the buyer. So we see that we need to give the cheaper LNG to Japan because they need it. At the end of the day, we're looking at the voting issue, which is that of Russia countered. The voting issue of Russia countered. If you go back into our very 1AC, we have 3 subpoints under our 1AC. We have the subpoint A, which is that of Russia power increasing. That was never addressed. We have subpoint B, which was talked about Japan is being constrained. That was never addressed. You go into subpoint C, which is that of dependence reduced. That was never addressed. You go into the impact of international stability. That was not addressed. The fact of the matter is, when you actually look at these points, we see that Japan is currently being constrained, and Russia has the leverage to stop it from interfering in any sort of politics, and they're dependent on it. By passing our plan, you create international stability, you get 244,000 jobs, and you allow the free market to flourish. For all these reasons, that I ask that you vote for the affirmative team plan. Don't stick with the status quo, and that's what a negative ballot means. Thank you.